I was about 17 years old when I was introduced to the works of Ashley Montague. And that was in combination with being introduced to the works of Abraham Maslow. My mother had a doctorate in education and specialty in early childhood development, and so those are the kinds of books that were in the library of my home. And I was encouraged by my parents to read and read and read. These are works that were written back in 1950, 75 years ago. And they were talking about what it is to be a child nurtured and brought into the world and being introduced to love. Or, if it is so tragically thus, being introduced to the deprivation of love. And I identified with almost everything they were saying about what it is to be a healthy person, because in my life, I was consistently and constantly surrounded by love. I don't know that I've ever met anyone who grew up experiencing more unconditional love from more people than I. It's just phenomenal to me. When I talk to people, and in my work as a therapist, I hear people's stories, and I realize with great, deep gratitude how incredibly fortunate I was to be born into the family that I was born. To my Lebanese grandmother, I was Habibi, the sweetheart. And there is not one moment in my life where I did not feel her uninhibited and unconditional love for me. To my father's mother, my grandmother Pauline, I was the joy of her life. I think the other grandkids were too, but I was the joy of her life. But I grew up with parents who had a profound belief in the goodness of people. They really believed that we, as did Ashley Montague and as did Abraham Maslow and many psychologists at that time, really believed that we are essentially good and that the church had done a very serious misservice to our self-esteem by saying that we are basically evil, that we are born into original sin, and that we had to spend our whole life trying to keep a lid on the evil side of us. They believed that we were meant for relatedness. And as a matter of fact, Maslow once said, every neurosis is grounded in the failure for meaningful relatedness. Because we humans are by nature relational. And Montague makes a big deal about the fact that the newborn infant is instantly relating to the mother, and that two births have taken place, or a rebirth has taken place, the birth of the child and the birth or rebirth of motherhood in the mother. And with that first attachment of the child to the mother's breast, you have the relatedness that enhances the life of both. Maslow once said that the definition of adults is corrupted children. Reminds me of Jesus saying, "Come to me as little children." You know, what was Jesus talking about? I mean, do you think, don't be sophisticated, don't be mature, come to me as little children? No, he was talking about, come to me as you are meant to be. Because little children don't notice the color of their playmates. Little children don't notice whether they are Asian or whether they are black or whether they are brown or whether they are white. As that movie Hawaii once said, children have to be carefully taught to hate. Because it does not come natural to us as humans. Hatred does not come natural to us as humans. So what happens? Well, the title of today's message is Affirming Love in a Time of Fear and Hate and Cruelty. So why are we in a time of fear and hate and cruelty if loving and relating comes natural to us? As a matter of fact, we become neurotic if we are isolated. Well, it's because fear creeps in. How many of you were taught, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all? Fear of conflict, fear of being expelled, fear of being shunned and set aside. How many times did you hear people say to you, well, what will people think? How many times did you, in your own experience, think of something truthful you wanted to say, and someone said, you can't say that? Or that'll get you in trouble, or that'll get you fired. So the tragedy is, and this is one of the things that Maslow was talking about all the time, the tragedy is that we adults become corrupted children. The children know how to relate. Jesus was right. Come to me as little children. He was right. Come to me with that openness to life, openness to others, that enjoyment of diversity, that enjoyment of other human beings as precious and healthy for your life. Until as adults, we start joining our tribes. And we start saying, this is good, this is bad, this is yes, this is no, this is acceptable, this is unacceptable, this is sin, and this is grace. I mean, all through Jesus' ministry, he was confronting this issue. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone, he would say. You know, what's wrong with you? Can't you identify? Can't you understand? Can you not stand under the other person's experience and have some empathic understanding? As human to human, we relate. So here we are at a time where hatred and bigotry, where cheating and lying, where abuse of rights and diminishment of personhood are not only part of our social intercourse, but seem to be the policies of those in power. And the hatred is palatable. And now the hatred has moved to cruelty. There's no apology for taking a parent from a child who is a citizen of the United States. The child's a citizen. And just sending that parent off, leaving the child alone. There is no apology for taking a spouse of an American citizen and sending them off to another country where they've never been and from which they might never return. There's no apology for masked people grabbing people off the street, and if they happen to be innocent, just saying, well, we made a mistake. But there's no apology. You know, we live in difficult times. And we don't have to be very insightful to see what is happening. And so I think to myself, if in fact we humans are essentially good, and we humans are actually impelled to relatedness, and if we humans are neurotic if we have to live out our lives without love, and we humans, by our very natures, want to belong with and for one another in community, how does this come to be that we live in a time when we see such hatred and cruelty? When we live in a time when 30 people with 3 toilets are put in one cell in a prison built in the swamps of Florida, surrounded by alligators. And people think that's okay. People think that's good. If we have this good human nature that Montague and Maslow are talking about, then how does this happen? Well, I think it goes back to ancient times, and I think it was the very thing that Jesus understood and that Jesus was confronting. It's all about fear. We think that the arch enemy to love is hate. It's not. Hate at least has us involved. If I'm going to hate someone, I'm going to be involved with you. If I'm afraid, I don't want to be involved with you. I want you gone. No, the arch enemy to love is fear. Here again how John describes it. God is love, and those who live in love live in God, and God lives in them. Love has been perfected among us in this, that we may have boldness for the day of judgment. And believe me, today is a day of judgment when we look at what's happening. Because as He is, so are we in this world. Now that's a profound statement in itself. So here's Jesus, the paradigm of love. And John is claiming that as He is, so are we in the world. And if God is love, as God is, so are we in the world, because we have that of God within us in our capacity for loving. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not reached perfection in love. The arch enemy to love is fear. And that's what all of us have to confront. And that's what the church has to confront. Do we have a message, and do we have a commitment, and do we have actions as a church that claims to be a community of faith and hope and love, and the greatest of these is love? Do we have a response to make to the fear that creates hatred and even cruelty? That's what we need to be asking ourselves. What is our response in the name of love and in the spirit of love, which is the Spirit of God, to what is happening that gives rise to hate and even cruelty? That was the ministry of Jesus. And I think one of the things that attracted me to ministry, and one of the things that attracted me to the personality of Jesus, is that he was as courageous as they come. He never showed fear. He loved where other people were hating. He dwelt with other people who had been rejected. He reached out to people who were despised. He sat at the dinner table with people who weren't even supposed to be acknowledged as persons. He let people hear him. He let people touch him. He let people be with him. And all the distinctions of his day that set people apart, that made people afraid, because people are always afraid of the other. All those distinctions never stopped him for a moment. Paul finally got it. And Paul said, you know, in Christ, in the Spirit of Christ, if you're going to follow Christ, then you better understand something. There's neither Greek nor Jew, male nor female, slave nor free. We're all one. We're all one. That's what Ashley Montague was always talking about. We are Homo sapiens. We are all one. You know, this thing about race and differences, you know, we're Homo sapiens. We are human beings. What's wrong with us in the animal kingdom that we don't relate well to one another? All the other animals seem to have this figured out. You know, they come together. They want to be together. They protect one another. Don't you ever watch the elephants surround the baby elephants when the lions are trying to get to them? You ever see that? And you watch any of those things on television? That, you know, that's an amazing moment. You know, and those lions are looking at big elephants who are forming a circle. They circled the wagons. And you're not going to touch our beloved. We're not afraid of you. That was Jesus. This incredibly courageous, brilliant Jewish rabbi who had one fundamental message. You are capable of loving and you are worthy of being loved. And if you forget that, then you lose yourself. And then you become afraid. And then acceptance and modifying yourself to be accepted, and repression, which leads to depression, which leads to anger in order to get out of depression, all that starts characterizing your life, and you become neurotic. And so we talk about being healthy. Love makes us healthy. You know, what are these psychologists busy talking about love all the time? Because they're interested in health. And what's the Latin for that which heals? Salvus. That's what the church means when it uses the word salvation. Salvation literally translates that which heals. Sin literally translates missing the point. The point is we're called to love one another. The point is we're capable of loving one another. The point is not to love one another misses the point, sin, which means we need salvus, health. Because if we don't love one another, we become ill. And we experience dis-ease because we're no longer at ease being authentically ourselves. in the way we are meant to be. So let us love one another. Let us get healthy. And let us be a paradigm for that kind of healthiness in a world that is characterized by fear and hate and cruelty, so that we truly become the light in the darkness, in the sure knowledge that the darkness shall not overcome the light. Amen.